This is the moment Ukraine says 2 ballistic missiles from Russia struck the bustling city of Sumy as many people were out marking Palm Sunday. Emergency services says more than 30 people, including 2 children, were killed.
Do you have a reaction to Russia's Palm Sunday attack on Ukraine?
I think it was terrible, and I was told they made a mistake, but I think it's a horrible thing.
You said they made a mistake. You were told they made a mistake. Do you mean it was unintentional?
They made a mistake. I believe it was. Look, you're going to ask them.
Yeah, I mean, the dude just really has a hard time condemning things that are pretty obviously horrible. That was Donald Trump, the president, reacting to Russia's deadly airstrikes on Palm Sunday in the Ukrainian city of Sumy. The strikes killed at least 34 people and injured another 117. Just days after US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met with Vladimir Putin in Russia. Those talks were allegedly productive, but clearly did not do enough to pause the fighting. We'll get into more details about what happened here and more of Trump's reaction, but first, Cenk, your initial thoughts.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of folks who do bombings across the world and go, oh, oops, I didn't mean it, it doesn't count. No, it counts, those people are dead. And by the way, this is what happens when you invade a country. You wind up killing a lot of innocent civilians, and that's all on Russia. That's definitely let me be much clearer than our president. 100% Russia's fault. So even if it's a mistake, it's still a terrible, deadly mistake. Also Russia's fault, invading and bombing them on Palm Sunday like that. There's something, look, I don't know what it is, but does Trump have a soft spot for Russia? Of course, I mean, they're like, oh, this horrible thing that are like really not our ally, kind of our enemy, did to our ally definitively. And he's like, well, I hear it's a mistake. By the way, who do you hear it's a mistake from? From our intelligence, or did the Russians tell you it was a mistake and then they did it by accident? That's a good question. But I'm not impugning, I'm not saying like, oh, I know the incentive structure for Trump and why he did it. But every time he covers for the Russians and blames the Ukrainians, so it's frustrating. But I actually think that it's arguable that the second part of what he said might even be worse because of the ramifications that it has. But let's get to that.
Absolutely, and just to read into how you see specifically him cut himself off, it does indicate that maybe he was about to spill that he got this information from Russia and then was like, oh, well, you'll talk to them. I heard it, you talk to them, implying almost they'll tell you what they told me. 2 ballistic missiles hit around 10:15 a.m. Live footage from a church service captured the moments the bomb struck nearby.
Разом відкриємо перше послання.
Horrible to be in such a war-torn place that you almost barely react and just you know what it is and you have to look out the window and just see where it's from and not run for your life because it could happen at any place, from anywhere. When asked about the attack, Moscow maintained that the Russian military strikes exclusively at military and near military targets. But one bomb hit a university building, and according to preliminary reporting, the specific bombs used show Russia was trying to do maximal damage.
We know from Ukrainian officials that the second Russian missile had a cluster munition warhead. And that effectively means I've seen some of the remnants of these types of missiles in previous missile strikes earlier in the war. Basically, these missiles are packed full of massive chunks of metal, which are basically sprayed across a wide area. So even if the Russians thought they were targeting some kind of military target, a concentration of troops, which they claim today, it is sure that they would have known that they would have had a high collateral civilian death toll firing those types of missiles at that time of the day on a Sunday morning right into the city center.
The weekend's attack on Sumy followed a deadly April 4th missile strike on Zelensky's hometown of Kyiv that killed about 20 people, including 9 children. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said in response to the strikes, "Only filthy scum can act like this, taking the lives of ordinary people." And he called on the global community to have a strong response and to treat Russia as a terrorist deserves. Asked about the strike, Trump did what he does best, of course, and shifted responsibility to Biden and the 2020 election.
For that war to have started is an abuse of power. This country would have never allowed that war to have started if I were president. Think of it. Think of what a rigged election means. We would have had we wouldn't have had the war in Ukraine. We wouldn't have had the Russia-Ukraine situation. We wouldn't have had October 7th, Israel, the Middle East. This is Biden's war. This is not my war. I've been here for a very short period of time. This is a war that was under Biden. He gave him billions and billions of dollars. He should have never allowed, if he had any brain, which he didn't have and doesn't have, and now it's being proven, he wouldn't have allowed that war to start. I would have absolutely not. That war would never have taken place. But remember this. This is Biden's war. I'm just trying to get it stopped. You would have never had that war. It would have never started. Putin never would have started it. I mean, I think, frankly, he had so little respect for Biden that he started it for that reason.
He started the war out of lack of respect for Biden. There's never been a man with less empathy, with less leadership qualities, and a person who sees the world just entirely through the lens of how it affects them personally than Donald Trump. Nobody asked him, were you responsible for the starting of this war? Or did it happen under the Biden administration? We know when it happened. Everybody knows when it happened. And during his administration, it started. You're president now, you're being asked about a terrible attack. Focus on that. For what reason is the great majority of what you're saying about diverting blame for whose administration it started under? It just is nonsensical. It makes no sense. And believe it or not, he did not stop there. He took to Truth Social also, where he whined some more and put blame on both, of course, Biden and Zelensky for being attacked by Putin, saying the war between Russia and Ukraine is Biden's war, not mine. I just got here, and for 4 years during my term had no problem in preventing it from happening. President Putin and everyone else respected your president. I had nothing to do with this war, but I'm working diligently to get the death and destruction to stop. If he means golfing by diligently. If the 2020 presidential election was not rigged, and it was in so many ways, that horrible war would never have happened. President Zelensky and crooked Joe Biden did an absolutely horrible job in allowing this travesty to begin. There were so many ways of preventing it from ever starting, but that is the past. Now we have to get it to stop, and fast. So sad. Again, the entire crux of his comment is all about the people receiving the attack. Well, I guess she shouldn't have run into my fist, is what he's literally is saying. Yeah. It's monstrous.
To the first point you made, Ben, I don't understand how people in Ukraine and Gaza live. I mean, imagine at any point a bomb can be dropped and you're all dead. And so as you saw that video of the church and they're, the building rocks and the glass shatters, but the bomb was about 2 blocks away. If you could see the smoke in the background, right? That's 2 blocks away. Now I want you to imagine if the bomb hit those people, they would have all been dead. Okay, so that's what happens in war. That's why we hate war. That's why we don't want it to happen. Okay, so now let's go to what's happening next. So Trump, the reason why I say the second half might be worse is Trump is, I don't know, there's a war, that's not my fault. Okay, me. Exactly what Ben's saying, right? So since it's not my fault, it's Biden's war, and I just got here, I don't have to do anything about it. No, brother, it's your war now. Okay, it doesn't matter who started it. And it just matters. You said you were gonna get it done on day 1. And then when you got in office, you're like, well, I mean, obviously I was lying about day 1, but it's gonna happen soon. But here we are, it didn't happen soon either. And it doesn't look like you got a plan to put it back together. And in fact, you got weirdly distracted at some point about getting the rare minerals in Ukraine and giving them to Elon Musk or something. So then we stopped talking about peace and we started talking about how we're gonna get the lithium into Teslas. Okay, and so how did that help? You're the president. You remember that old saying, the buck stops here? Trump's saying now is the buck stopped at Biden. I don't know anything about the buck. Never saw the buck, don't care about the buck. The buck's not my business. The buck is Biden's business. Take some personal responsibility. You don't have to say, hey, the bombing's my fault. You don't have to say X, Y, or Z. You have to actually try to make a difference. Instead of going around going, not me, Biden, but not me. Shut up and concentrate and try to save some lives. You're the president of the United States. You're supposed to be the leader of the free world. You're supposed to try to make a difference here. And look, guys, he says he's trying to wrap up the war. He says he's in favor of peace. That I don't mind. That's good. That's good. I don't care about political credit. If he somehow got a deal that the Ukrainians don't mind and ended this war, I'd give Trump a world of credit, right? But you gotta at least try instead of, it wasn't my war anyway. And the Russians, I mean, the poor Russians, it was a mistake, I feel bad. And he didn't say I feel bad, okay? But like, yeah, or you could have said like, even if you thought it was a mistake, hey, I heard that it was a mistake. But that mistake cost 39 innocent people's lives. How many more mistakes are the Russians gonna make? Let's get to the table, let's get this done. And I'm gonna be tough on both sides, but especially on Russia to get it done. Those are rational things that a person who cares about peace and cares about those citizens would do. But Trump only cares about Trump. So he feels like, hey, if I just say it's Biden's war, then I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, and not just that, it's what you just said a second ago about he would have at least said, I'd be tough on both sides, but he doesn't even say anything negative about the Russians in the statements, time after time. It's only criticizing the US and Ukraine for the war in which Ukraine was invaded. The statement doesn't say, of course, this horrible war started by Russia needs to end, they're the aggressor, this is not okay, and also Zelensky could have done more with Biden to stop it from happening. Not even that. Not a negative word on the other side. It's so incredibly strange. He's just the archetypal kiss ass that comes up to the school bully and wants to be liked by him. When you see the bully as being a complete jerk to everybody in the cafeteria and you're like, hey, that was great the way you beat him up, pal. He just wants the love of these bullies more than ever having any sort of moral basis or realizing you are the strongest person in the world. They should be kissing up to you if you had any sort of moral leadership, but they know that they've been able to twist your morality, if he ever had any, which he probably did not, and twist his reality to be what suits their needs. They play him like a darn fiddle.
Yeah, last quick thing here. I believe that there is state terrorism. And so if a non-state actor had blown up 39 innocent people in a major city in any country, we would call them terrorists, right? Russia blows them up because they would like to grab more land in Ukraine. That's still terrorism. So either we shouldn't use the word or we should use it equally. But forget terrorism, Trump won't even criticize them. So Jesus Christ, man. So we gotta end all these wars as quickly as we can in some reasonable way. And we've all got to push towards that direction instead of making excuses and getting into partisan BS. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.